Good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the UAE-Lithuania Business Forum. This is part of the Lithuania National Day celebrations here at Expo 2020 Dubai. We're delighted to be able to host you here in person, and hello to everyone who's joining the event virtually. This past year has been challenging in many ways. Isn't it great to see the world come together? Then great minds collide, ideas and new perspectives are exchanged. That inspires action and delivers real-world changing solutions. We're eager to connect, to share expertise, and to co-create together the UAE and other nations. During today's event, eminent speakers from UAE and Lithuania will discuss sustainable food practices, renewable energy, and global mobility, as well as opportunities in high-technology industries like fintech, biotechnology, and lasers. There are many esteemed guests in this auditorium. I would like to say a special thank you to Her Excellency Prime Minister of Lithuania, Ingrida Šimonytė, and other attending ministers. Many guests and some speakers were not able to participate in today's event due to the ongoing global pandemic. We're glad that some of them are joining us virtually. Before we start the engaging discussion, I need to share a few housekeeping rules. Please keep your masks on during the event, and exits are located right at the back. If you haven't done so already, please put your phone on the silent mode. With my great pleasure, I would like to invite Her Excellency Prime Minister Ingrida Šimonytė to stage to officially open the Lithuania UAE Business Forum.
Techniškos bėdos. Labai atsiprašau. It's not going full screen.
Don't worry, there will be no presentation at my opening remarks. Distinguished participants of this business forum, guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to extend my congratulations to the organizers of Expo 2020. This impressive event brings together government representatives, business leaders, and accomplished researchers from all around the globe. It allows us to share our ideas, learn from each other, and explore ways to build a better and more sustainable future. My special thanks go to the team of Lithuania Expo 2020 and our business representatives who have worked together to make today's event happen. Today, more than 100 Lithuanian business representatives from sectors as diverse as lasers, IT, life sciences, fintech, food industry, and others are present at this forum. I wish today's B2B meetings to be plentiful and to lead to new partnerships. In recent years, Lithuania has consistently focused on high value-added sectors. 70% of all investments go to IT, life sciences, or fintech. We are steadily making our way to become, by 2030, a life sciences hotspot in the region, with the life sciences sector generating up to 5% of our GDP. 1 in 10 of scientific lasers in the entire world are today made in Lithuania. With the onset of pandemic, Lithuania's biotechnology sector has started manufacturing ingredients for coronavirus vaccines that become vital in fighting this global challenge. We have the scientific potential, entrepreneurship skills, and ambition to become one of the region's hubs in gene editing. Some of our achievements and potential can be seen here at Lithuanian Pavilion. Dear guests, Lithuania's economy has been remarkably resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic. As the world economy contracted by 3.5% in 2020, Lithuania's GDP decrease was very moderate, and it returned to growth already in the second half of 2020. This year, we expect our economy to grow by more than 4%, and we expect for similar growth in the years to come. As a member of the euro area, Lithuania has maintained sufficient fiscal space to be able to provide liquidity assistance to companies and to support affected households when the pandemic hit. Alongside its efforts to fight the effect of pandemic, my government has set the goal of transforming Lithuania's economy by achieving faster growth in high value-added sectors. The economic recovery offers more opportunities to build a modern economy by promoting future-oriented, inclusive and green policies. Lithuania has been targeting investments and promoting the transition to renewable energy sources, introducing environmentally friendly and waste-reducing technologies. Wind, solar, and hydrogen technologies are on the rise. We bring science, business, and public sector together for a common goal: to properly prepare for green and innovative future. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity's achievements have brought the moon and Mars within our reach, and the distances that separate us has become insignificant thanks to air travel and internet. Today we can take steps to connect minds and create a technology-based, sustainable future that our economies and societies deserve. With great talent in science and business, today Lithuania can be a part of solutions in a very wide range of fields, from life sciences and renewable energy to sustainable food production. I trust that ideas brought forward in this forum and bridges of cooperation built here will translate into real-life projects that will benefit our countries and countries around the globe. I wish you all inspiring and meaningful discussions that respond to the challenges that the whole world is facing. Thank you very much and wish you a very fruitful event. Thank you.
Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister. To share even more facts and details on the Lithuanian economy and areas for co-creation, with great pleasure, I invite Minister of Economy and Innovation for Lithuania, Ms. Aušrinė Armonaitė.
Good evening, good afternoon, Your Excellencies, colleagues, friends. I always forget to take off those masks. So I'm extremely happy to be here in this inspiring city of Dubai, visiting this inspiring event of Expo 2020. And being a Minister of Economy and Innovation, I'm extremely proud of Lithuanian businesses that are present here. 150 people coming from 50 companies from Lithuania are here, eager to build new partnerships, new collaboration, and hopefully something really, fruitful and meaningful will come out of this. So I will I have some slides, and I will share them with you when someone would help me. Okay. So it's a presentation on just to give you the idea of what is the picture of Lithuanian economy and, you know, possible partnerships that we may build on, just to give you the idea and a picture of it. Now, I will start with a question for the audience, and please, Lithuanians, don't raise your hands. I have a question to the locals. So, is there anyone in this audience who have visited Lithuania? Okay, we have one hand, a couple of hands. So I hope there will be more after this event and after our meetings. So just to give you the idea, Lithuania is a small market, 2.8 million people. We are in an extremely competitive neighborhood of Nordic Baltic countries. Of course, we are members of the European Union, and many companies actually choose Lithuania, you know, in order to access a huge market of the European Union. 500 million people in the EU could be accessed through Lithuania. Now, being a small country, we are, of course, an open economy, which means that 80% of our GDP comes from the exports. We rely on exports a lot. And actually, that's why we are here, because we need more partners from all over the world, and also United Arab Emirates, especially, you know, to strengthen our collaboration. So what gives Lithuania the edge? We are not that rich of oil or gold. The biggest resources for us are our bright and talented people. For instance, 56% of our population is with higher education. 85% of young professionals have proficiency in English, and 53% of our population can speak 2 foreign languages, which is, of course, a huge competitive advantage. When it comes to education, we are focusing on technological education especially. Sometimes I say that me being a Minister of Economy, my main priority is education, because talents is a #1 thing we need for successful growth and successful economy. So we are home for the biggest technical universities in the Baltic countries. We do have around 38,000 ICT specialists in Lithuania. And of course, we are working hard to attract more talents from all around the world so they could create their lives and contribute to our economy in Lithuania. As I said before, we are an export-driven economy. 80% of GDP comes from the exports, and a significant portion of it comes from a growing innovation ecosystem. I will mention for you a few examples. For instance, 10% of the global scientific laser market comes from Lithuania. We produce both scientific lasers and those lasers who are being used in manufacturing. For instance, smartphones that you have may have cameras that have been cut with a Lithuanian laser. And I think this is quite a significant thing to note. As Prime Minister indicated in her speech, life science industry is something that also is growing rapidly in Lithuania. For instance, last year we had an export growth of 62%. And high-tech engineering is also growing. Actually, some of the companies are here in this audience and will be happy to share their business ideas with you in B2B meetings. So generally speaking, Lithuania is a great place to start your business with the best internet connectivity in the world. We are #1 globally when it comes to public access of Wi-Fi. We are one of the champions when it comes to 4G coverage, and also #1 in the world when it comes to macroeconomic stability, and we also acknowledge for digital and technological skills availability. Now, infrastructure is something that is also very important, speaking about economic cooperation. So there are 3 international airports in Lithuania. We have a very well-developed rail and road infrastructure. Actually, currently we are working on a totally new infrastructure project, a railway infrastructure project called Rail Baltica that will link Western Europe to northeastern part of Europe. So basically you will be able to come from Paris to the ferry to Helsinki through the Baltic countries by train. And a seaport is also worth mentioning. Our seaport of Klaipėda is the only seaport in the Baltic Sea. And Lithuanian one keeps going and is in operation. Now, I will tell you more about our priority sectors. Actually, our Prime Minister very briefly covered them in her speech. So Lithuania is a hub, of course, for information and communication technologies. We have a rapid sector, rapid growth in sectors such as financial technologies, also GovTech. I will tell you a bit more about them later. And what is also important to note is that we do have not only domestic Lithuanian ICT ecosystem, but also talents from our neighboring countries from Eastern Europe. They also come to Lithuania. For instance, companies from Belarus, they are relocating to Lithuania, and actually now the whole new ICT ecosystem from Eastern Europe is emerging in Lithuania. Life science industry, currently it composes 2% of our GDP, and by the year 2030, we aim to reach 5% of GDP, and actually I'm sure we will reach it maybe even sooner because our capacities are growing rapidly and our exports are growing rapidly. We have some success stories actually I want to share with you today. So Thermo Fisher Scientific has a facility in the capital of Lithuania, Vilnius, and they produce components for COVID-19 vaccines for Pfizer. Also components for PCR testing. It's not only, of course, American companies that operate in Lithuania. There are local Lithuanian life science companies like Northway Biotech and many other that contribute not only when it comes to life science industry, but also medtech, proposing IT solutions, and also producing some medical equipment, medical instruments. High-tech engineering industry. I have told you already about our lasers, and this is a significant high-tech sector for our industry. However, we do also have an automotive sector. Lithuanian companies, they produce components, artificial intelligence, and also Internet of Things solutions for car producers like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, and many others. And I hope our export markets will also grow towards east, because you see our top markets are Germany, USA, Sweden, well, neighboring countries. So we are looking for more export markets. Green energy in Lithuania, and this is an important one. I have to note. 25% of our energy production comes from renewables already. Mainly it's biomass, but also solar power, wind power, and so on. There are renewable energy companies working in the field of conversion of fossil fuel-based power plants into renewable energy sources. For instance, BOT Group, and actually if here audience, we do also produce electric vehicles, electric buses and minibuses. Representatives of these companies are also here, and we also do develop technologies for electric vehicles infrastructure. And a couple of companies are also here in the audience. I hope they will succeed in their B2B meetings and new contracts, hopefully. Food and beverage industry. I shouldn't, exclude this industry just because it is a traditional one, and we do have strong traditions when it comes to dairy products, fish, meat. We sell it all around the world, and of course, would be happy to sell more here in the Gulf region. So basically, that's all about our priority sectors. Now, I told you that in the very beginning that we do have this very prominent ICT industry. I just want to elaborate more a bit about it. So a few more slides. Lithuania is already a huge global hub for financial technologies and fintech companies. We are #1 in the European Union when it comes to licenses issued for financial technology companies. We are #4 in the world, according to different rankings. Some of them say that we are #10. So still, it is a significant ecosystem that grew in the past few years. Now, it takes from 3 to 6 months for you to a license for your fintech in Lithuania. And of course, Lithuania is a gateway for the, very prominent European Union's market. So companies like Revolut, Google Payment, and others have chosen Lithuanian jurisdiction to get their licenses. Lithuania is also a regional artificial intelligence powerhouse, and there are Lithuanian companies that already, proposes artificial intelligence solutions. For instance, a startup, Occipit, they do contribute to solutions for radiology. The Lithuanian company Pixevia has created the first autonomous shop in Europe, which runs without any cashiers, and this is quite a significant one. Now, today you will also hear a presentation by Mr. Stonys from Telesoftas, and he will tell you more about what artificial intelligence their company proposed for Lithuanian police, how to track crime. Now, the last but not least, GovTech. And this is actually the future. Being a decision maker and a politician, I think that this is an extremely useful area for, enhancing our public sector and our public services. This, bright and talented ICT community may create real solutions, may propose real solutions for government, to be more smarter, more intelligent that it is right now. And actually, Stonys from Telesoftas will share in his presentation how we apply it practically in Lithuania. So GovTech is the future. I'm a strong believer in GovTech. I hope that we'll be able, to share more concrete examples in our meetings. So that's about it. Again, thank you very much for listening. Good luck, everybody, and enjoy this inspiring city. And I hope that new collaborations will emerge out of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Armonaitė. You have set a very strong stage to go and discuss in more details what are the possible areas for collaboration. So climate change and preserving our planet, as well as sustainable living, is finally on everyone's agenda. A really large part of this conversation concentrates on the importance of nutritional seasonal diet and local produce. This first panel is going to talk about sustainable food as well as agri-tech. I'd like to invite to stage our panelists, Laura Kuzukonine, the CEO of Supergarden. Their food technology solutions ensure that nutritious products can be easily accessible all year round. I'd like to invite Kęstutis Juščius, the CEO of Auga Group, one of the most sustainable companies in Lithuania. And finally, I'd like to invite Omar Alkhan, Director of International Offices at Dubai Chamber of Commerce. So firstly, thank you for joining the panel. As I mentioned, we are going to be talking about food, sustainability, and agri-tech. We're in the desert, and growing produce is more challenging here. A large part of fresh produce are important. Kęstutis, could you tell the audience a little bit more about the sustainable food practices in Lithuania?
Hello, everyone. Lithuania actually is one of the nicest countries in Europe and one of the cleanest environmentally is here. And this is why we can produce most cleanest food in Europe. And that's what are famous about. And 80–90% of Lithuanian organic food production this actually goes outside of Lithuania for export markets. And Auga is the largest in Europe organic food company from field to consumer products. And this is naturally that we have in Lithuania this heritage about this growing something natural way. This is why the largest company is here in Lithuania. And I'm happy that our products are from Japan, China, United States, and also we are available here in Dubai, and you can find also in the Dubai markets. So I'm very, very happy that natural products from Lithuania are welcome in regions, all wild regions.
I lived in Dubai for nearly 10 years, and I'm personally very happy to find Auga beetroot soups available in the majority of Dubai supermarkets. They're great if you haven't tried it. So for me personally, then I go home back to Lithuania in the summer. I absolutely love the variety of fresh produce are available. The problem with seasonal foods is that they go bad very, very quickly, and the nutrition is not available all year round. So I'd like to ask Laura to share a little bit more information about the innovative way she's trying to ensure that we're able to have that nutrition as part of our diet all year round. Working?
Okay. Right.
Alive.
Okay, you are right. The quality of fresh food in Lithuania is great, but fresh berries and fresh vegetable don't last for long. And during summertime, we can enjoy a very wide range. During winter months, we need to rely in imported products that have more preservatives. Yes, and we as Supergarden like that everyone could enjoy nutritious products all year round. So to do this, we are using freeze-dried technology. And the best part is that freeze-dried products remains biological value, nutrition, minerals, and there is no added sugar, there is no added any other additions. Only the moisture is extracted, so final product is 10 times light and has a long shelf life, more than 2 years. And for example, food for astronauts is prepared exactly in this way by freeze drying. Now we develop a new product, food printer, that can print innovative snack from freeze-dried powder. In small cube, you can find the extra large value of nutrition and vitamins. For example, in 1 cube, you contain whole carrots or whole mango, or for example, 10 strawberries. And if you would like, you can visit our pavilion and print your food by yourself.
What a wonderful innovation. So being a company founder myself, I actually love hearing the story of how do you come up with this idea. And the reason I want to ask you this specifically, because I love your story.
Okay, my kids love to eat muesli, and I noticed that they grab freeze-dried strawberries first. When I decided to buy freeze-dried berries extra, I didn't find. This is when I thought, oh, it could be a great idea for a new business. Freeze-dried products could be not only ingredients, it could be also a tasty and healthy snack. And knowing I am a mother, I was excited to have an alternative option, replace candies for children, and also enrich diets with plant-based products. So we started from 5 popular berries, and now we have more than 200 products from vegetable, spices, dairy, meat, ice cream, also liquid.
Amazing, thank you. So obviously we're here in UAE and we want to know more about what's happening here. UAE National Food Security Strategy seeks to address food diversity and to improve nutrition. Omar, could you please elaborate a little bit more of what's being currently done to address that right here in the UAE?
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here on behalf of Dubai Chamber. Food security is something that is a no-brainer here, but sometimes it's very easy to forget where you are if you look around yourself. Buildings, waterfalls, pavilions, greenery everywhere. However, this is a desert. It's very harsh climate, very little rivers, very little rainfall, a tough geopolitical neighborhood as well, which adds to it. So again, even before COVID, this was on our minds. Being such a small country, we needed to know how ready we were in case there are some food emergency requirements. The good thing was when the pandemic hit, our logistics chain was so organized. We were preparing, I think, for Ramadan as well, and the stocking was good. I think we had a supply of about 6 months. But what the government and the Ministry of Food Security did at that time with the businesses in Dubai Chamber, where we gathered all the information, all the data on every warehouse, on every essential food product, and then created a platform where we updated. So even the government, without sacrificing any competition between the private sector, was able to know what was available and how fast we can deploy and move food, and what were our supply chains looking like. Because there was a big hit in the supply chain where factories shut down, people were not able to go in ports. I remember in India, there were port shutdowns, and the human resources were not able to expedite the food, and India is a big food basket. So again, this created even more awareness for us, and even as well, Dubai is an expert in logistics. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at the availability, the deployment, and even the last mile was a challenge, where some of the biggest supermarkets were having challenges of 2 weeks, as I remember, and I lived through this, and some of the smaller ones were deploying within the same day. So again, this really woke up the supply chain in terms of the digitalization of orders, the e-fulfillment, the repurposing of logistics. So again, despite us having challenges, that is a very strong area that we're focusing on. Partnerships with other nations and building agreements with food basket nations that we could rely on, and diversifying from as well. This is something that we've also looked at, as well as growing our own capabilities as well for the essential requirements. And there's a lot of research going on. There are a lot of ripe, organic markets and farms happening. There's also a lot of plantations being created in the southern hemisphere, where we could also have food all year round based on the requirements, regardless of the season as well, because of the logistics. But even there is research happening here for all the different supply chain of food, whether it's water generation, recycling, energy usage, because creation of food takes a lot of energy, and we were just talking about the CO2 implications. So even now we're looking at saline crops, how we can use salt water to grow certain materials that are nutritious, and bringing that into our food chain. And also, we're working with South Korea and Sharjah on rice patties and experimenting on 20 types of rice and trying to grow them with 50% of the water that is usually needed. So again, here in Expo, it says creating, connecting minds and creating the future. Dubai and the UAE has always been about that. It's the biggest brainstorming area in the world. And hopefully you can see South Korea, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, we are always connecting and cross-connecting and trying to make this a very strong marketplace for the whole world. And by doing that, we can take a little bit of food security for ourselves as well if we keep going.
That's amazing, and you're really nicely leading because you're doing so much, and large part of it is trying to figure out how you can use technology to also grow produce here. Kęstutis, I can confidently say that OGA Group is a company that really concentrates on sustainability, and that's part of your business decision-making process. Could you share a little bit more about the business practices that you do and how you incorporated sustainability into that?
Okay, I will start from consumers, not from production. Researchers are done in many countries, including developed and not so well-developed countries, and 80% of consumers, they declarate they would want to change to more sustainable food if we can find it. And if you now sit here in the rooms, do you know any one brand in the world which can deliver food with no cost to nature? Do you know?
There are no hands up there.
The first brand in the world will be Auga. It's very nice Lithuanian name. It's very nice and short Lithuanian name, which just means we grow. It's, so 3 years before, we counted Auga's emissions. And I was shocked that I did not expect, by being organic producer, to find so bad results. And then I said, if we can solve this, so it will be great value for consumers. Probably we wanted to be we wanted to impact on climate change by consuming every day better food, which is no cost to nature. This is why we take it a challenge to develop technologies missing to create this food value chain. And one of the examples of our technologies, we just published it 3 weeks before about our R&D department successful project. We developed first biomethane electric hybrid tractor for professional farming, which will be driven on cow's manure in general, so cow's biomethane. So we are not agriculture concern which produce machinery, but we found it a different way how to do this. No one concern's done it before. So, and there are some technologies we are working on, which will be breakthrough technologies, which help cows stop methane from cow stomachs. And it's even more polluting, like driving cars. One cow every year pollutes the same amount of emissions, which you can save by changing 10 cars from petrol to electric cars. And nothing happening in agriculture. And so much forbidding, so much restrictions coming in the transport segment, and agriculture is zero. This is why Auga took this challenge, and I believe we can do this. And we have a great team. We have 1,200 people worked in my company, and best people are joining in Lithuania. Just our innovation minister, you remember, he just said 50% of people, young generation, is graduating high schools. We know English. We are open-minded people. And this is a country where we can do and help another world also to consume our technology, to use this technology. And we share this technology with all the world farmers in the world. And we will create impact. And we empower consumers in all the world to make impact by choice, taking more sustainable options by everyday consumption.
Thank you very much for sharing this. So then I was having a conversation with Kęstutis. I found it absolutely fascinating that there is this huge agricultural industry that produces so much CO2 emissions that we don't really think about it, and I find fascinating what they're doing. Omar, UAE government is supporting and encouraging food productions in the country. Yeah. So where do you see the biggest innovations in this space, and what are the opportunities for co-creation?
Well, at the moment, under our umbrella, there's the Food and Beverage Manufacturing Group, and they have very interesting reports. If you go to fnbdubai.com, you'll find their annual report and even subsectorial report. 30% of the manufacturing that is happening in Dubai is related to food production, packaging, and finishing of the goods and delivering. So in terms of the production, I think, again, being in the desert, I always say we're always looking to do more with less. So again, innovation, whether it's in energy consumption, water generation, it is in material and packaging innovation, and even in waste management. And as was mentioned by my colleagues, even my daughters in their high school or middle school, they're being taught about bokashi and how you could take it's organic waste where you put it in the tub and you reuse it and it becomes very usable soil. So again, the next generations are, and they are, every time we're sitting at the dinner table, they're judging us and saying, what are you doing? You guys are the boomer. They're calling us baby boomers now that we're, but the innovation is everywhere from sensors, data points, watering, irrigation, everything, of course, wireless, and using technologies to do things remotely, whether it's, I've seen many different farms with drones monitoring progress, and pretty much going to taking agribusiness into the Internet of Things, and really, and growing, of course, the yield, reducing the consumption, and of course, while keeping it full of good nutrients, positive, real healthy organic nutrients that don't contaminate, of course, your body. Evolution moves very slow. Human beings' ideas are fast. So sometimes we have to keep a balance with that. But everything within the whole supply chain of water, whether it's packaging, marketing, is up for grabs here in technology. And whatever you do and platform and pilot in Dubai really can go to the next level and go beyond, because this is a great place to showcase your product, your innovations, and it's like wearing a star or 2 stars on your shoulder, because Dubai is not oil rich. 3% of our GDP comes from oil only. So people sometimes assume that we have it easy, but it's a tough competition, but it really brings the best out of the best. And so the government here is really aspirational. So if there's an idea that they see, there's no more excuses. We don't have to wait years and years like in 10 years or 20 years ago. Now it's like, why don't we have this already?
And again, to kind of build on what you were saying, that's why personally I find living and being in Dubai and businesses setting up in Dubai absolutely amazing, because things can move really fast here.
Yeah.
So to continue building on a very important topic that you mentioned, food waste. A lot of that is happening. That's happening through packaging. There is a lot of wastage within the produce being very usable, edible, nutritious produce being thrown away. Laura, your solution is helping to solve that. Could you elaborate a little bit more how that helps to solve this problem?
Yes, 2 points. First of all, freeze-dried products have a long shelf life, more than 2 years. So means you do not throw fresh products away. Second, I don't know or if everyone aware, but supermarket do not store products that do not fit retail standards. I mean, do not look beautiful. And it is quite often the case for natural and organic products. For freeze drying, only quality is important, not appearance. So by freeze drying, we solve the problem of raw material waste.
I think that's great to hear. Kęstutis, again, I'll refer to the interesting discussion that we had earlier before joining the panel. You're doing a lot of innovative things to make sure that the food wastage that happens within the production stage, before the produce has even gotten to the shop. How are you addressing that?
Thank you much for this very good question. Actually, many people concentrate about the plastic. This because we think this is the largest pollutant in the pollution in the food value chain. Actually, is not. So not a plastic is the largest pollution. So the plastic is a very minor pollution. Food production process in general is most pollution part of our food. And to reduce emissions from processes. So AUGA actually tries to use the circular economics principles in production methods. And for example, by producing food, producing some crops, you have a lot of residues, and it's waste of production of crops, residues. And we will convert all the residues to energy, to biomethane. And if you make a smart decisions, organizational decisions, you can convert, could be energy surplus by out of your waste of production food value chain. So farming itself can produce could produce 2 more energy out of waste which is needed for the farming itself. So it's, you could be, you need 100% for farming, so you can extra 100, you can serve communities around you.
So do I understand correctly that we're already using the solar technology, we're using the wind technology to create energy, now we can also create energy from farming basically?
Exactly. So we just created a tractor which will use energy produced out of waste. So the waste will be produced at where it's actually happening. So it's our residues of the farming residues. And this energy will be used by machinery where it's actually were created. So the waste is produced to energy, and machinery use the same waste. And externally, what we can extra bring to the communities, we will bring to communities. So this is actually like a natural circular economics where you don't need energy supply at all.
This is amazing. I'm very proud that you're a Lithuanian company that's driving this innovation. Omar, you're a big advocate for private public sector partnerships. In your opinion, are the biggest cooperation for this specific problem of food wastage? Is there anything else that's a problem specifically here?
Well, I think, again, the food wastage usually happens when even you're trying to get from the farm to the port and before you even get to the consumption table. And I think the private-public partnership here is we're very lucky here. The government, the leadership is very far ahead. A lot of the time, the private sector is saying, hey, I have something that's really great, and the government might say, mañana, tomorrow, you know, we need a few years, or we'll study it. Here, it is, show me what you have. Take me to your lab. Show me your tractor. I just heard about this tractor. I'm already thinking about, for example, deploying in places where there's a lot of wastage of food in Africa and different places. And I'm thinking of agents that are here, for example, that do heavy machinery export to those regions. And already where we have the lab, the scientists creating something that's good, there's the commercializing aspect of it here through Dubai. I think in terms of public partnerships, there's already been a food to waste plant already greenlit and starting by Dubai municipality. There's a lot of incentives. If you see in Expo, everything's like aluminum. There's no plastic. There's more and more. If you go to Dubai airports, there's I think there's a removal of single-use plastics and food and beverage outlets. Sorry, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's even sometimes opportunities that we did not know existed, and this is why it's important to be proactive. So again, when we met, I think yesterday on the conference call, I found out about these tractors, and I know there's many rich regions that have lots of food wastage. Anything wasted, you can of course find ways to eliminate. So again, there's a lot of opportunities here. We are currently 35th in World Food Security Index, the global index. Oman is 40th, Qatar, because of the challenges it's faced, and it was isolated, and again is 24th. So again, we are looking to become in the top 10 in the next strategy, 2051, for food security. So again, we're looking at any areas, because the government cannot do everything. Okay, the government will make these big structures, but then there are the contractors, the subcontractors, the building material providers, the engineers, the architects. All of that is private sector. The government has a lot of big vision and a lot of ambition, and what we do here is always with the private sector. So anything within our vision and within our goals, whether it's we want to 3D print, for example, buildings, 30% of our buildings by 2030, so it's not going to be the government that fulfills it. It's them putting sort of the tender or the challenge, and then people would come here. This is a great place for implementing ideas, and I can't wait I'll come to the pavilion and hopefully one day we can print a pizza or a cheeseburger, but I'll do with carrots. But Also, it's a great opportunity as well to connect to other parts of the world, to Africa. Recently, we had the Global Business Forum for Africa. We had about 3,000 attendees, 2,400 physical, 600 virtual. One of the good things that we did an extended program where Estonia, your neighbors, also did a session about Africa. And this is what Expo is about. It's not about, okay, Latin America deals with Latin America and we have pavilions together. It's about people talking to other people, understanding challenges and understanding potential solutions. So Estonia had an event like this where they invited African counterparts, businessmen, heads of government to see what Estonia had to offer to solve certain Africa problems or certain country problems that they had. So this is, again, what the proposition is for the collaboration between the private and public sector.
Thank you for sharing that. It just highlights that Expo brings this amazing opportunity for not the only two countries to have a conversation about potential co-creation solutions and opportunities, but to make sure that this conversation grows bigger and bigger and all the countries collectively have the same conversation and find the problems.
And what Lithuania and any other country has to ask itself, if an African businessman or government authority, do they wake up thinking of Lithuania when they think of AI, technology, food tech, fintech? Are you on the radar? Because there is amazing advancement, but marketing and promotion is a necessary evil, and to push and make sure that people know which countries are synonymous with which technologies. And at the moment, I think you're up and coming and you need to plug in Lithuania to change the mindset of people and not to go to the usual suspects. So people go to John Deere for tractors. Maybe now, instead of going to the US, they'll come to Lithuania.
Do we have you as an ambassador for the Lithuanian agri-tech?
You do, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are being mindful of time. I know we could continue this discussion and have many more interesting topics to discuss. To say thank you, I would like to invite Dina from Enterprise Lithuania to give a small gift of appreciation to the panelists. And Omar, we have one more gift from Lit Food, and it's a very special organic.
Can I eat it?
I suggest you appreciate it.
We have outsourced the work to the bees. Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much, Omar. Yra ar kažko nėra, nes aš manau nėra. Ar nėra? Ar šiaip? What a wonderful discussion about food. So a very large part of the discussion on food also touched on the importance of sustainability within the agriculture industry. We're in Sustainability Pavilion, so we're going to continue talking about this topic in even more details. Everything uses energy. So now the question is, what can be done, changed, and improved to make sure that our energy needs are met with minimal impact on the environment? So we have a wonderful panel of experts on stage here today. We are Arshi Ayub Mohammed Saveri, am I pronouncing that correctly? Is the CEO of the Trust with Trade Group. Thank you for joining us. And Mr. Hussein Al Mahmoudi, the CEO of Sharjah Research, Technology and Innovation Park, is joining us to represent the technology and innovation sustainability side from the UAE. From the Lithuania side, we're joined by Mr. Vidmantas Jakulevičius, chairman of the BOT Soritech Group. Mr. Ignas Mikutis, CEO of Elinta Charge, and Mr. Simonas Stankus, co-founder and CEO of Imbalance Grid. So I'll start by talking about the UAE energy strategy. By 2050, it aims to increase its contribution of clean energy to 50% and to reduce its carbon footprint emissions. The strategy will be implemented within three main themes. The first theme focuses on the initiatives for the quick transition of power consumption. The second theme focuses on finding new solutions that complement power and transport systems, while the third deals with research, development, and innovation to ensure the sustainability of energy. Arshi, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that there are here, and what are the potentials for co-creation?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Simone, for balancing the panel. It seems like quite a beautiful one, if I may say so. Thank you so much for having me here again. One of the good things that I have noticed being born and brought up in this country is that this country is a visionary. You have developed infrastructure, mobility, transformed an entire landscape by just vision and so much of hard work. We have to first commend the Emirati spirit. Please give a round of applause to the exceptional Emirati spirit of the UAE. I think it wasn't possible without the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai. The energy strategy specifically, I think one of the major, I wouldn't say a challenge, but a massive opportunity is carbon neutrality. Now, we as a company have been focused upon leveraging biotechnology by the way of modifying genome and tissue culture of a specific clone. By that, we were able to achieve massive environmental control of carbon, emitting oxygen, controlling air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, sandstorms as well. At the same time, this clone grows at 1.5 feet per day growth, exponential growth rate of this specific plant. And it requires to be cut, more specifically. The part about this is it's thornless, so it doesn't have to be replanted. It grows on its own for the next 100 years. At the same time, that it is decarbonized into high-quality industrial ethanol, clean coal, biofuel, CNG. As of right now, we are also trying to create oil from it. So apart from that, when it is planted in 4-feet trenches, we are able to secure a complete model of food security, because this plant is a natural air conditioner. Without the cover of a greenhouse, we are able to cultivate fruits and vegetables and breed a specific kind of animals as well. Finally, the waste is used for vermicomposting and also for high-quality fabric. Now, I will get to what the plant is. I think everybody is intrigued to know what it is. But the best part about this being a huge opportunity is that we intend to run this as a pilot in the UAE. I love this country. This country is my home. And like I said again, this country is a flag bearer of leadership, peace, prosperity, and actual realistic solutions when it comes to sustainability. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Hussein, knowing that the third element looks at research and development, could you elaborate a little bit more on what's being done in the country, specifically looking at the research segment? For the part of Energy Strategy 2050, what's being done to address the encouragement for research? Now it's on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. I think the UAE is very keen to transform for the next 50 years and take their energy base to that. And that's why with research institutions like ours, where we look at different alternative energies, whether you're talking about solar or biofuel or wind, it also apply to collaboration with universities and research institutions on different level. The industries of petrochemical, other industries is among the industries that this strategy focuses on. So UAE has a very strong mandate of developing advanced industries, and of course, because we are a country that is based on energy and oil and gas, this is of course a no-brainer that we start with things like the oil and gas and petrochemical. The idea is to look at these specific industries and try to take them to the next level. For example, things like that we work with, for example, is on additive manufacturing. We work on today printing 3D metal related to energy industry. So there is a big plan for the country and a new ministry been created for this to support the development of especially the energy section. Of course, UAE recently also made a big pledge to become a net zero country by 2050. This is a huge step. And I think most people think that UAE will make it because we always deliver in what we say. And of course, in addition to this, UAE also is diversifying its own energy. We've just launched and commissioned 3 small nuclear sites in Abu Dhabi, and this is provides more than like 25% of the energy of this country. So there is a lot happening from a legislation point of view, from a research point of view, and also from a diversification point of view. And last but not least, which is the most important thing in all of this, is development of human capital, development and talents of human who can really deliver and drive the future of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So human capital, talented people are needed. Then talented people need to come to the same place together to make sure that they could create solutions. And then we get the question of how do they get to those places? And mobility plays a very large part in that. Sheikh Zayed Road, for those who live here, we're commuting it every day. For those who are visiting, that's that very wide 8-lane road that during traffic times is completely blocked. And obviously that produces a lot of emissions. So I would like to ask what can be done to address this specifically, because currently there are very few electric cars on the road. So in Lithuania, through policy changes, we actually have a changing situation where the rate of EV vehicles is constantly increasing on the roads. Simonas, I'd like to, maybe you could share a few more insights of what were the key events that really encouraged the increasing adoption of electric vehicles in Lithuania.
Thank you for your question, and it's a great honor to take part today to this panel discussion. And yeah, I agree that Lithuania already did quite a good job in an early adoption of electric vehicles. However, it was an early stage adoption, and if we want to succeed in the future, we need to take much bigger measures. And by talking much bigger measures, I mean that I believe everybody, if you agree that in upcoming years, in about 5 years, we need to build millions of new chargers. And we can build those chargers in 2 ways, basically. One, to build millions of independent, passive users that would have such, for example, some kind of reservation of electricity from the grid. And the second option is to build a united network from scratch. By mean united network, I mean that we need to have smart chargers that would have communication not between the chargers, but also communication between chargers and the building and the utilities and the car sharing companies, community, and etc. Coming back more to the question, what Lithuania did already is some subsidiaries for people that purchases electric vehicles, also ability to drive bus lines, free parking, and etc. But as I mentioned, it's only the beginning. And if we want to succeed, there is very, very simple way how to do that. And that way is to build chargers in the places where cars spend the most time. And you may know that usually a European driver drives about 30 kilometers per day, and their cars are parked for about could build chargers. In those places where those cars spend that 22, 23 hours, we would have very easy and very smooth adoption of electric vehicles. So that's the way where Lithuania, not only Lithuania, all over Europe, this region, I believe, and all the world should focus. Not to find some kind, of unique rules, but to build chargers at the places where cars spend for most of the time.
Thank you very much, Simonas. So, Igna, the electric charging, and there is a lot of innovation happening in that space, and Ignas and Elinta Group are also providing chargers, and their solution is adopted in over 30 countries. Could you share a little bit more of the best, kind of elaborate and build more on top of the best practices, both in Lithuania and what you've seen in other countries? Because UAE is a little bit different. The distances that we drive are slightly longer. So what can be done? What would be your suggestions, and what else you've seen elsewhere across Europe as well?
Hello, everyone. So I represent company. I'm CEO of Elinta Charge, which is producing electric car chargers and solutions related to that. So answering the question, I think the success factors of the countries we are exporting to are that when the government understands that e-mobility, as Simona mentioned, is part of all the renewable and green wave, then it's clear that there is no way back, and you have to make this transition. And the sooner countries and governments understand that, the easier it is to prepare, because the longer you wait for it, the harder will be to make this transition fast. So I think that the countries, especially like European Union countries and Lithuania, followed the other member states in Europe by requesting or slightly pushing stakeholders of the market to adopt EVs and to build EV infrastructure. For example, by requesting real estate developers in newly built commercial buildings to deploy a certain amount of chargers, like 20%, and stating clearly that this number will be increased during the time. Also, what Lithuania, particularly Lithuania, did well, I think, is by inviting or accepting the private initiatives as car-sharing companies which are using purely electric vehicles. So this is what I'm proud of my home city, Vilnius.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Mr. Hussein, Sharjah Innovation Center is doing a lot of different innovations. Could you share a little bit more what's being done to specifically in the mobility section?
In the mobility section, of course, I think it's a big topic everywhere. And for us, I think we are very fortunate to have really some fascinating technologies being at the moment developed in the park. We are developing, with a collaboration with a company from Belarus, next generation trains technologies. So we are actually developing trains for passengers and for cargo that is has less pollution and less footprint and CO2, and more sustainable as well. So I invite you all to come and see our new technology at the park. This is one thing. We are also home for the R&D center for CAFU. CAFU is a mobile fueling company that you basically ask for fuel and it comes to your house 24 hours or your office. So we also work with CAFU in developing some of their technologies as well. We also promote autonomous vehicles as well as part of this, and of course trying to venture into anything that really support sustainability. So mobility is a big topic in the UAE, and I think also it has to do with culture, I think, as well. So I think it's not only about the technology, it's also about people mindset and people being aware of how they commute from one place to another. So I think this is something that is really a big topic in UAE. And I think at the park we're really very excited about the solutions we have now for mobility.
So Carrefour, they currently only deliver petrol to your house. Are there any plans to support that, to make sure that electric charging is involved in that? Or is it more looking at to make sure that there are more chargers available in all the places? Because the building that I currently live, I don't think it has a charging point.
I can't speak for Carrefour, but I can tell you, I think the question is yes. They have something that is, I think, going to be very unique, that they are at the moment testing. But Carrefour does different services as well. Other than the fuel, they do maintenance, and they do car wash and other things. But it's very unique, actually, startup. One of the most successful startup in this country. And I think it's again goes back to my colleagues from Dubai Chamber. UAE really a very good platform to scale up. If you are a company, we are starting now not to talk about startup nation. We want to be a scale-up nation. So if you are a company who want to really scale up, you can use UAE as a platform for you, and Expo is just one example of what this country provides.
Thank you very much. Another part of Dubai Clean Energy Strategy aims to increase production of clean energy in Dubai to 75%. Vidmantas, your company creates energy from solar panels. Could you please share a little bit more about solar panel technologies that are created in Lithuania and precisely what you do yourselves as well?
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here with you together. Lithuania, of course, you know, it's not the sunny country as we have in Dubai, and of course sometimes it's different to explain why solar are quite active in Lithuania. But in generally, of course, for our company, I am Vidmantas Janlavičius, chairman of the board, BOD Group. One of our direction is producing the solar cells and solar panels since 2009. It's one of the oldest company in Europe. And as the beginning, we have been as a R&D laboratory for the biggest European universities, for the Fraunhofer University in Germany, for the Constance University in Germany as well, then Sintef in Norway, Oxford in UK, and any others. And we did the pilot solar cells in the beginning. Later on, we expand our capacities to the bigger size, up to 160 megawatts, 60, then 100 megawatt of capacity. And last 6 years, we have been only one producer of the solar cells. Producers of the solar panels, it's quite a lot in Europe. We have, I think, around 60, 65 producers, but solar cells, after some Asian companies' expansions and after some dumping issues, Europe lost the solar industry in general. And we survive. We survive because we choose some unique technologies. Since 2013-14, we are active on the glass panels. It's a double glazing panels, which can survive in very hot conditions, especially in such conditions. And it's Fraunhofer's patent, which was created in 1964, but implemented in practical way just in the 10 years ago. And we use them double glazing panels. In the beginning, we start to use it's maybe a little technical, but I see a lot of colleagues from the energy sector, they will understand that. We start to use the bifacial solar cells in 2015 together with the Fraunhofer University, and then we extend our solar panels with the single axle trackers. That means we produce the energy with very nice curve. You know, the typical solar panel produces the maximum power just at 1 o'clock at the noon, and we produce stable electricity prices from 6 o'clock until the morning during the summer till 8 o'clock in the evening. It's in Lithuania. Here it would be much more stronger. That means the balancing cost is less. And another way, what we are doing now with how we are using these solar panels, we're using them for the infrastructure in general. It's our direction. As I mentioned, we can't compete with the Chinese typical panels as a price because it's made in Europe. But we produce the infrastructure products. Our solar panels could be integrated as a sound barriers for the highways, sound barriers for the high-speed trains in Europe, and you could use functions. Let's say it will protect from sand, wind, partly from snow, bifacial solar panels. And at the same time, they produce the energy, for example, for our colleagues, for e-vehicle charging stations, or just for the infrastructure. This is our first direction. The second direction, it's a production of the integrated BAPV, building integrated photovoltaic, and we already saw a lot of pavilions, and especially Dubai Pavilion, already with its installed solar panels, which gives again additional functions to protect our environment, at the same time produce the energy for the local consumption. And this combination, of course, is very good in combination with the heat pumps. Then we are fully, let's say, carbon-free. We can produce the heating, cooling from the electricity, and this could be sustainable. The third our direction, as we always do some agriculture, is here. We already 7 years ago, we installed the first agro-solar greenhouse in Malaysia. In glass solar panels gives us possibility to reduce the density or irradiation of the solar for the special plantation. And that current situation in Asia, the biggest greenhouse, it's produced by us. It's 1.5 megawatt, semi-transparent for the chili pepper in Perak province, quite close to the KL Kuala Lumpur. These are the three directions which we're working, and we try to use the solar not as a typical panels, but we try to adapt solar to the another additional, I would say so, additional efforts, additional plus. Yeah, just to produce a solar panel, I think it's a past, but to use solar panel as a additional component for the construction materials, for the BAPV, building integrated photovoltaics. By the way, the biggest facade or the biggest building, the greenest building made in Europe, it's produced by us. 667 kilowatts was installed in Zurich municipality. We have the buildings. That means it's integrated photovoltaics. It's our major direction.
Look at it as like, this is beautiful architecturally. Now, I think it's fascinating that that same technology we'll continue to build on that to make sure that the beautiful design skyscrapers can also be a source of energy as well. The other conversation that we touched on during our discussions is, so because there are so many different ways of creating energy, and I'm very happy to hear that it's whether it's buildings, whether it's from agriculture, whether it's wind energy, but Lithuania is using a very innovative technology how to spread that across the country. And from what I know, we're one of the first ones to adopt that. Vidmantas, could you elaborate a little bit on that further?
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. We already saw from our ministers and prime minister that we are quite advanced in fintech technology. And we are I think number 1 of the new startups and number 4 worldwide. But I could tell you that nobody talks the tech is coming, and we are one of the most advanced by the law side inside the European Union. This is for sure. We are number 1. It's very difficult to explain in very short sentences how the system works. But in generally, we have the distance producers and distance consumers. That's mean any private people who is living the apartments, you know, it's very difficult for the skyscrapers, for example, to install on the rooftop the solar panels because this space is very limited, and of course a lot of technical equipment on rooftop. That's mean for the living houses, and we are not such a sunny country as Dubai here or as the UAE, but what we are doing, let's say the apartment holders could buy part of the big solar parks, and digitally, by the blockchain technology with a grid company, we are counting during the 1 year how much this apartment already spent electricity and how much this distantly solar park produce the energy. The grid takes once a year, there is a payment. They took, for the transit, and the grid works as a till certain limits, it could be possible. Later on, of course, we're installing by the way, we are the biggest, I think, at that current situation, we just start to build the biggest battery pack, 200 megawatt hours, in 4 different locations, especially for that kind of systems. That's mean producer and prosumer could be digitally connected. We're doing count just 1 per year, 1st of April. Not because this is Elias Day, but just because to use during the summertime generated electricity from the solar to use during the winter time. And we are balancing all the grid systems. this gives possibility for investor, for private people who's living there in apartments. If you have your own house, of course, you can install on the rooftop, and then it's much more easier. But if you're living in an apartment, then you can distantly buy the, let's say, part of the solar park. And per year we are calculating what was spent, what was produced, and if you spend it more than you produced your solar park, then you pay just regularly to the grid company. If you spend less, the grid company in 1 year pays you back, let's say. But
wow, this is absolutely amazing.
this is a really digital new thing which will come over the world, I think.
So even though I cannot, because I live in an apartment, I cannot influence the apartment to have solar, to put solar panels on it, I can still make sure that my consumption is used with green energy because it's important to me as a consumer.
Yes, it's very good, of course, for the smaller countries. For the bigger countries, it's quite difficult. And if you have many energy providers who owns the grid, this is difficult. In Lithuania, I think it's a very logical to have one grid operator. It's a government grid operator. And then, of course, everything works much more easily because grid receives owns money for the transition, always. Yeah, that's been the interesting in this. The people who own part of the solar park, they fix the price, because with the existing energy prices, you can see how it's rising up, but it's stable. And there is a financial benefits of that.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Amazing.
Welcome.
So let's talk about it from the UAE side. From the energy production side, what are the biggest innovations that's currently happening in this space? And again, the same question, where are the opportunities for co-creation? Do you mind using the mic, please?
As I said earlier, the UAE is diversifying its technology, but I think digitization is one of the key areas. So digitizing the whole processes of producing energy, using technologies like artificial intelligence, and the way that the energy is being delivered. The mechanism of the energy and the energy supply is changing. Of course, Dubai has a big now solar also supplies to Dubai and takes care. So the UAE is also doing a lot when it comes to energy diversification and also energy. We host a small photovoltaic R&D center, and would love to know more you are doing, because we have a university city which has 47,000 students, 22 university. It's a city within a city. And we were actually just yesterday talking during the board of trustee about changing it to a solar supply. Of course, laws varies from one city to another city. For example, my city, the solar is still not yet approved because of strategic choices, but I think solar will come. And I think each city has its own, or each country has its own approach. But things like this, I think, creative thinking and creative approach, I think is great. So the UAE is an open place to really adopt all kinds of technologies, as long as it's a win-win and makes business sense.
Arshi, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think Dr. Hussain rightfully mentioned about what Dubai and Sharjah is doing, but also I'd like to attach the fact that Abu Dhabi as a city and of the country has been pivoting the entire agenda for sustainability. They adapt sustainability at the core, I think, more than a decade ago. So specifically speaking, Masdar is not just but by and large a huge vision which will pan across the many decades to come. Of course, sitting at the 50th year, and in just 50 years this nation has managed to accomplish literally the impossible, which is not a word in their dictionary specifically speaking. So they have managed to accomplish a generation of nuclear power for peaceful purposes, solar power, having sustainable cities, and I think where I see massive opportunity creation, like Dr. Hussain mentioned, this country is great to scale up. With the amendment on the FDI laws of recently, where you can have complete 100% ownership of your entities, is a huge gateway now for so many Lithuanian businesses to co-create and be a part of this nation. Apart from that, I think one of the major things like Prime Minister and Minister of Innovation is that this country is primarily young people, and so is the UAE. I think there could be a massive opportunity to have scientific knowledge exchange and also for young people to collaborate. This country has a ministry for youth, very able, led by a female minister, and I think that kind of knowledge should resonate across the globe. Because these solutions are not just local solutions, these are global solutions. And I think that's where we can learn from each other, exchange, and spend more time in research and development. I think that's where we see massive opportunity to co-create. Thank you.
So I'm a big fan of actionable insights. Could I ask you a little bit more specific questions? So you mentioned sharing research ideas is great. What do the panelists, everyone who's doing innovative solutions here, what should be done as the next step after this forum to make sure that that co-creation happens?
Well, like I said, this country, investing in the country to start your businesses or to scale your businesses is the most natural first step, vice versa, for the Lithuanian and for Emirati businesses as well. For sure, after that is where the government, like the previous panel, mentioned about how public-private partnerships are being encouraged. So that is a huge, huge opportunity for so many private businesses to collaborate with the government. So first step, second step, highlighted very specifically. There are Emirates all across the UAE. All of them have their merit. All of them have their opportunities. And there are no challenges. There are only opportunities and massive. So I think these would be my suggestion on the two most organic steps to start with after this forum.
With a vision of the government to go in the next 50 years and become, a knowledge hub and a knowledge-driven economy, the government created a special purpose vehicles like the technology parks, for example, because we also realize that new technologies like yours require a different type of treatment, different type of legislation, different type of approach, and also different type of mindset as well, and people who understand what you're talking about. So these research parks are designed to cater for new technology. And I think you have in Venice as well some platform also designed for this, for people who speak the same language. So these technology parks are designed to cater for future technologies because they are mandated with space to maneuver, whether it's legislation, they are part of a big university, so talents, and also some sort of a, for example, a sandbox. So we create, for example, a specific sandbox for different technologies that we are not sure about implementing. So these are, let's say, well-managed projects that we can try new technologies. Also, the UAE government has a special department, part of the Prime Minister, called Regulation Labs. They also look at new regulation that is designed, for example, to allow new technologies to start for 6 months or 1 year. And while they do this, they vet these technologies and they see, okay, it makes sense to be part of it or not. So there are special platforms that have been created for your companies to try and to venture into this region.
And just to add to that, remember this country has a vision to create a knowledge-based economy. It's not just only a trade-based economy. It just wants to be a knowledge-based economy with the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. We have to collectively add to that. It can't be one person, one company. It has to be a collaboration of everybody. So that's where it's a huge opportunity for Lithuanian companies to come forward, set up their businesses in this part of the world, engage in public-private partnerships, and add value to each other's countries.
Thank you very much. I think
Important for us also, not the pitch is not from one side to other. It's also, we realize, and I want to enforce what the minister and the prime minister said, that Lithuania has a lot of talents, it has a lot of technology, and has very good scientists and science. So for us also, it's very important to know Lithuania better, is to know the talents and the technologies of Lithuania. And I think there is a lot, frankly, from a competition point of view, that for us here in this country, we would be, I think, better off to work with countries like Lithuanians than others, for many reasons. One of them, of course, is cost as well, which is a bottom line for anyone. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I think people are in this country realize the talents and the science of Lithuania and innovation of Lithuania. And we just need to bring this up, and we are very keen to work with Lithuania.
Thank you very much for adding this. And obviously, there is a lot of, as you said, a lot of talent in Lithuania. We have several hubs and university hubs that specializes in different research. So I think I'd personally hope that there's going to be a lot more partnerships and visits between the two countries and engagements in the different research environments.
I think you have one of the, no, that's in another country. I was about just to say you have one of the oldest universities, actually. One of the oldest in the world, I think.
Vilnius University
Vilnius,
was at one point the oldest university in Northern Europe.
Yeah, and I think our ruler is an honorary PhD holders of the university. He's an 82 years old ruler, but with 2 PhDs. He's a scientist. So I remember, I think he visited this university before. Yeah.
Amazing,
yes.
amazing. Well, thank you very much to all the panelists. I think this gives a fair food for thought for what can be done in the mobility and the energy production stages. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone. And we're going to share a few small gifts of appreciation for your participation. Thank you. Richardas stovi tenais. Ahmed stovi tenais. High-tech industry. Galim sens. No. Jēlas nēram, please. So we started with food, agri-tech, then we talked about energy, sustainable solutions, mobility, and one common denominator across all of it is technology. Because technology, talented, creative people enables for these solutions to take place. So I'd like to introduce the wonderful panel with whom we're going to discuss high-tech solutions and the various innovations that Lithuania is producing. I'd like to introduce Vidmantas Šakalys, the CEO of Femtika. Please wave to introduce yourself. Monica Paule, CEO of Kazaim, and Ludos Kanapienis, CEO and founder of Ondato. From the UAE side, we're joined by Mr. Marwan Abdulaziz Jahadi, Managing Director of Dubai Science Park. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Richard Motterzed, Director of International Relations and Research at Ras Al Khaimah Medical and Health Sciences University. And Dr. Hamad Yassiari, I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Head of Genomics Unit, Dubai Genetics Center at Dubai Healthcare Authority. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this panel. The Minister of Economy and Innovation, during her presentation, has mentioned that Lithuanian-produced lasers compose 10% of global scientific laser market. They're used by NASA and corporations such as IBM, Hitachi, Toyota, Mitsubishi. Two Lithuanian laser companies are here. Integrated Optics, they are the producer of the most compact laser that is used in a variety of instruments. Some are adapted to distinguish natural gems from synthetic ones, while others are dedicated to fast detection of viral infections. Their technology has been used for the viral for COVID vaccines as well. Femtica, the CEO of Femtica, is joining us on stage today, and they specialize in shrinking things. I will let Vidmantas to share more about what their company do and how their technology is adapted within the medical field as well.
Yeah, the innovations within the laser sector comes from early beginnings, as lasers was innovative company or innovative field for Lithuania from early stages, like 60 years ago when the laser was invented. After 6 years, the first laser was built in Vilnius University. When the third wave came with lasers, lasers introduction 25 years ago by big companies of light conversion and Expo, and now the third wave of laser innovation is coming in Lithuania, when lasers are used to produce very interesting things. For example, like Femtica is doing very small, shrinking things. As you can see in our stand, we produced the highest world building in the smallest possible size. And that's possible to see in a stand. Actually, in the medical field, what we do, we are using the technology to produce innovative medical devices. For example, we have an interesting project with French startup developing micro robots that could flow inside a blood vessel and deliver drugs targetedly to a specific place in a human body or some measurement instruments. Then the other fields where these small things are used are kind of telecommunications, for example, or micro-robotics.
So maybe to make sure that everyone fully understands the impact of it, could you give an example of if you wouldn't exist, and if the technology that shrinks things to such small detail wouldn't exist, what wouldn't be possible?
Yeah, that's really a very good question. And if the technology that shrinks things isn't possible, then, for example, very small brain operations are not possible, or the heart, smallest possible operations are maybe not possible, because these small stuff allows us to create very, very fine features that could be used in, for example, in medical field.
Thank you. So I find this fascinating. Over the last several years, UAE government has been actively growing the R&D initiatives in the country. Richard, would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on what currently are the strongest areas within the UAE R&D community?
Yes, thank you for inviting me today. Obviously, within the last several years, the progress has been around technologies such as blockchain. I'm with the agenda. I got a fanfare, I got some music there. That's very encouraging, thank you. Blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, looking at artificial intelligence, but obviously no plan survives the enemy, and what we've been looking at over the last 18 months is combating COVID, which the UAE has been a world leader in managing and combating the COVID pandemic. However, you know, that progress is still ongoing in terms of the developments around those technologies. And I feel like I should say, you know, something about lasers here, you know, I think it would get a Lithuanian vote. But obviously, you know, looking at that technology as well, there's significant progress that has been made within the UAE in not just creating in innovation around those technologies, but creating a hub, a regional hub within the Middle East, the GCC, to attract investment and to attract innovation and research around those areas. Obviously, my area is around healthcare, and the UAE is taking steps to be a world leader in this region. My history is 35 years, nearly 40 years within this country, Albaun Sana, you know, raised here. And the development is, we talk about this progress and development, and it is breathtaking. And there's no country that has achieved this, mashallah, within this, within the world, from my point of view. But we are progressing forward, even having gone through the pandemic. There is progress within these areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Marwan, is there anything that you'd contribute to kind of where do you see the biggest areas of research growth in the UAE?
I think the UAE has already prioritized the areas of research, and also very recently has put together a research council where all the Emirates are part of. And there is also major funding that is coming in from the government that will be supporting early stage research. So there is a lot that has been done in terms of creating the infrastructure with the universities, for example, and also creating science parks and research parks such as Dubai Science Park and Sharjah and Abu Dhabi. So you can see that it's a countrywide strategy, very long term. And I think the strategy is also very pragmatic in terms of it needs to create solutions. And if you look at research, if you look at healthcare specifically, the priority has been on chronic diseases and the diseases that has the highest burden on the economy. For example, diabetes, is considered to be has the highest weightage in terms of its cost on the healthcare system. So the question is, what can we do to, what technologies, what innovations can we drive out of universities, partner with industries, with companies? How can we use the healthcare infrastructure that is available, whether it is public hospitals, private hospitals, and bring out these innovations to the market?
Well, knowing that healthcare has been mentioned several times, Monica, I'd really like for you to share what's happening in the life sciences R&D area in Lithuania and how you can support in solving this pressing matters.
Okay, so hello to everyone. And Lithuania is very well known for life sciences. We have more than 50 years history, actually, so it's not a new thing to Lithuania. We have really very great expertise and, already generations working in this field, in this industry, both from academia to companies. And there are many hot topics now in Lithuania. I do represent one of them, is gene editing. So, for example, our company and also our company Kazaim and also Vilnius University are working at gene editing technology CRISPR-Cas. And this technology, well, last year Nobel Prize winner, obviously is a breakthrough technology that is quite at early development, which means we will see a lot of breakthrough things, new things, and very important changes that this technology will bring.
Monica, could I ask you to, for people who might not know what CRISPR is, could you tell what it is, what it does, and why is it so important?
So actually there is demonstration in Lithuanian pavilion of the DNA, which has some mistakes in it. Let's talk in a very simple way. And CRISPR-Cas technology actually allows to solve, to repair those mistakes in our genome. And these mistakes means that probably a person is sick with a genetic disease or with cancer or with many other diseases, the same as the plant or the animal or any living organism. And CRISPR-Cas helps to fix it or to make some other changes which might improve the health of the person, or let's say the growth efficiency of the plant, or resistance to existing diseases and so on. So actually these application areas varies from human therapeutics, diagnostics, to agriculture, to industrial applications. So really a very wide impact could be made with this technology.
Dr. Hamad, so gene edit genome, this is your area of expertise. Where do you see the areas for collaboration, maybe in this specific area? Because obviously research is very difficult and humans are mostly the same as humans, but how can we build on the research that's done across the world to make sure that everyone can have access to great health?
For sure. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. I can talk about human genome for many hours, so I want to stop boring for that. But the future of medicine is in genomics. I'm pretty sure about it. And our current understanding and expansion of our understanding about human genome will eventually lead to healthier lifestyle. I think a pandemic showed us two very important things. One of them is the use of technologies such as PCR and sequencing, which was developed 20, 30 years ago. So those R&D that was invested 20, 30 years ago did lead to sort of the speed in recovering from this major illness. The second thing I think the pandemic showed us is that human health is very precious. So we need to continue investing in medical research. We need to continue bridging the gap between clinical care and research. And I think this is what Dubai is doing very well at the moment, and the UAE, of course, because we want to move towards evidence-based medicine, and that would then hopefully create and bring together all these fantastic innovations into one roof.
So for the sake of everyone in the audience clearly understanding, what does evidence-based medicine mean? What does that mean for the practical, regular human who goes and see the doctor, then they're not feeling well?
Absolutely. I mean, for example, some of the medications that we take, or when a physician prescribes, behind that medication comes huge amount of trials, and basically you need to ensure that medications are safe. You need to ensure that the medications are doing what it's supposed to be doing. For example, take, for example, the Pfizer vaccine or Sinopharm vaccine. Before it comes out, you need to test this on a small set of population to ensure that there is enough evidence for its efficacy, for its safety, before it can be brought out to the population. So that is, to me, an evidence-based medicine. And I think that is only possible through collaboration between universities and healthcare providers.
If I may add also something on the same lines, which is called value-based healthcare. Now, the discussion is moving from, for example, if I'm a payer, you know, and here in this room, I think most of us would have insurance and we're covered. Someone is paying for us. So it could be your insurance, your government, etc. And then you have a provider on the other side. So the discussion now today is shifting from cost to value. So for example, instead of spending a lot of time saying, you know, I want the best price for this medicine or this service, the discussion is happening, show me that you generate the best value for this patient. For example, is his case becoming better? Is he having less, let's say, you know, is he coming less to the hospital, less to the doctor? Show me that, you know, and you can only do that through diagnostics, information, digital health. So this is definitely the future, and I think those countries that invest in creating those infrastructure will be the only ones who can benefit from these innovative services.
Absolutely. So for me personally, looking at the gene editing technology, what it really usually shows is that there are several different medications available usually for the same disease, but one is going to be have the right efficacy for the patient, the other one might not. Monica, do we understand correctly that gene editing technologies will allow doctors to choose a medication for you that's more suitable?
Yes. Because we are, as humans, we are very similar, but at the same time, each of us is totally unique. So gene editing enables us to have personalized medicine. So actually, medical solutions, which, as was mentioned, based on very specific diagnostics on each of us as individual, and really then adapting the treatment, which could be unique for you and could actually save a lot of cost for the healthcare industry, because we could choose the right treatment from the very beginning, and not to, as it sometimes happened, to spend quite a lot of money trying, you know, to to find how to treat the person, but unsuccessfully. So this technology and solutions based on it would really allow to be very exact and to find this personalized way of treatment.
So I personally have worked in healthcare industry, and my colleagues who are working in the kind of preparation for medication development, I found it absolutely fascinating that they are working on the ideas for medications that might come to market in 10, 15, 20 years. And obviously all of this heavy R&D process is difficult, complicated. What can be done to make sure that can be done to make sure that it's expedited by collaboration and co-creation and sharing the information in different countries? Because all of us know the key disease areas that the world is struggling from. Richard.
Thank you. I think what is being achieved here today with Expo 2020, creating a majlis, creating a place, a focal point for people to talk about these about topics. Yes, it's around trade and business and innovation and ideas, but obviously now we have a footprint with the Expo 2020 site where R&D can be undertaken in the future. I think the UAE, going back, to the 1970s when higher education was first established with UAE University, it's exceptional. It's exceptional. And then with the federal institutions that followed, I think we're in a position now with what's being created under the vision of Sheikh Zayed is an opportunity. What the pandemic has shown us is that we can actually, within our higher education institutions, start to look at creating opportunities outside the traditional multidisciplinary teams, medical, nursing, pharmacology, and look to create opportunities around robotics, around gene therapy, where those traditional multidisciplinary teams, the demand is globally has never been higher. But there are these opportunities where we can create jobs, we can, through visionary leadership, create those opportunities to create a stronger market. My final point is that, for now, is that we have, a wonderful opportunity for individuals within the country that if they need care outside of the UAE, that's made available, that access to some of the best quality care from around the world. Why does that still happen? And it's because that some of the countries have very established R&D attached to healthcare providers within America or United Kingdom, for example. And if and this, with this attempts now to create an R&D industry, there's a growth of 26.5% each year within the UAE. We have this opportunity to attract the top individuals who will be connected through academic institutions, through health institutions, and through R&D. And that makes, it's a very exciting time because that means that the UAE becomes the central point within the GCC, not just for health tourism, but for around the issues of research and development going forward in the 21st century. Thank you.
Dr. Hamad, I see a lot of nodding. Maybe you'd like to add?
Yes, I mean, collaboration in the field of medical research, I think, can be seen through investments by the governments in the R&D sector, without thinking too much about the return on the investment, because the return will come later. I'm pretty sure about that. And we have to have the mindset that investing in knowledge, investing in the healthcare is a long-term investment. And basically, from what I see the future will be, is that the future will be in genomics, in artificial intelligence, and in space exploration. These are the three areas which I think Lithuania are in all three of them, through the laser technology, through gene editing, and through the AI and software development.
Monica and Vidmantai, maybe you could share a little bit more on the state of innovation in a wider, in these specific industries that you are part of in Lithuania. More details on that.
Well, in our case, the collaboration is the enabling thing, because in gene therapy, in gene editing field, well, the whole industry all around the world, and academia and startups and big companies, they do collaborate, and this collaboration actually makes the inventions come way faster than you could expect. And also this open innovation approach exists, which allows the inventions that come from the different industry players to be applied for other areas, which means that if somebody from pharma field invented something in gene editing, that also can be applied in agriculture field. And that's actually very much enabling and making things move way, way faster. But also this integration of different disciplines, like bioinformatics, also makes the whole technology development way more efficient, and all these new approaches, also integration of artificial intelligence to replace, let's say, certain processes that for many years was done by humans, and now is done by artificial intelligence, which means faster, more efficient, and also allowing like new insights that also makes the R&D processes cheaper, faster, and allowing these different disciplines to integrate. So that's very important. And without this integration, I think the research and based on research cannot exist at all.
Great to hear. Vidmantas, is there anything that you'd like to add about the laser industries?
Yeah, as Monica mentioned, there is convergence of different techniques, technologies, industries, and sciences. So most innovations they are burned on the edge of technologies. Let's say lasers, gene editing, medicine. All these things are emerging and creating the new ways for us to elaborate human sciences on medicine, on new ways to treat the disease. The laser field is contributing all these gene therapeutic medicine development with possibilities of production, of manufacturing, fabrication. These sounds like very strange when you are talking about human organs, but still we are coming to this, that actually we will be using these technologies and lasers in this specific theme of manufacturing of different human bodies, and then filling in with different genes and all other things that grow in it.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Thank you. So the reason we started talking about healthcare, because obviously COVID has highlighted the importance of good health, because if that stops, a lot of other things stop along the way. But and you have had that many times, high-tech industries, innovation, great internet. I'd like to switch the topic a little bit and talk about other high-tech industries. Lithuania is the 4th largest fintech innovation hub. So Liudas from Ondato, maybe you could share a little bit more about the Lithuanian fintech space and what does Ondato do specifically?
Sure. Yeah. So it's an honor to be here and actually to be in this discussion. And I will start a bit with a story. 10 years ago, Lithuania set up the strategic plan on high-tech technologies, on the laser technologies, and on the fintech itself. At that time, I was running a financial institution myself. We had 5 banks in Lithuania and 1 electronic money institution, which was me. And, it was really interesting, like, we were really supporting that, just because we understood that the environment is changing, so that technologies are changing, and, in all of the fields, there's lots of the movements, and financial, of course, as well. Because financial, at that time, really was, and still is a bit, a really fragmented, infrastructure, that we have different currencies, different regulations, lots of different stuff in all of the jurisdictions. So basically, even more than languages that we speak, because we have now common language that we can share here, but there's no common finance as such. And at that time, ambitious plan, but looking, 10 years forward, it was working. And that was, of course, because of, really good setup from at that point of time, because of the talent that we had, the infrastructure that we have from the technological part and the possibilities there. Of course, the good impact from the other industries, from the high-end industries, including even, to be honest, the laser technologies and the health tech, because it's a bit of the mindset stuff as well, and it's related how you think about the development of the technologies, and of course the good infrastructure from the legal perspective, because we had a really strict regulation and getting stricter and stricter. And why I'm saying that is because in the finance industry, there's there's a big push from the users or from the customers to have everything instantly, to have everything on app, whatever, So everyone is get used now to Facebook or WhatsApps or whatever to send a message, to send a video. That's what they want to do with their money. But there is another part, is the the bad part of the finance, of the terrorist financing and all the stuff. And there comes the regulation, like a bit of trying to keep everything in the space. And if overplaying that combination, so basically if turning that regulation and compliance into some kind of advantage, then you can just stand out. So that's what we do at Endato. And that's what the country actually does, is that all the obstacles basically turning a bit of around into some kind of opportunities. So that's what we did with the access to the infrastructure, with all the SEPA transfers, the SEPA instant, all the stuff across the Europe. So like having the gateway from Lithuania, from the very small country of the 3 million population, accessing all the European market and all the stuff, and similar things, with the passporting of the licenses and everything. And then it gives the opportunity for companies like us or whatever then to basically adopt those in the different regulations at the one single point, So then they can actually operate across the globe, but on the other hand, to meet all the local requirements and the local regulations. So that's what is it about, and then that's where the finance is now moving. We hear lots of the buzzwords there, So like starting from whatever, blockchain or embedded finance and so on. But it's just the tools on enabling those, to work for its purpose. Yeah. So for the actual reason on why we are creating those technologies. But that's where it's a really good now playground in Lithuania actually to do those things.
Amazing. Thank you for providing so many details of what is being done in the Lithuanian tech innovation space. Knowing that we are talking about high-tech technologies, and what we've touches on a lot of variety of things that technology can enable. I'd like to close this panel with each of you sharing your ideas and where you think the best opportunities are in general for creating innovative solutions that are gonna change the next wave of innovation. Dr. Hamid, would you like to start?
Yes, I think from where I stand and from my own experiences, I think the future in healthcare would be through enhancing our current understanding of the human genome. And since it is a large, since genomics is a big data science, we need help with deciphering of that, and therefore the advent of artificial intelligence is a key driver of our understanding of the human genome, and then linking that up with therapeutics such as the gene editing or now newly mRNA-based therapeutics that we have seen it works wonders with the Pfizer vaccines and Moderna vaccines. I think the future would be into exploring more the relationship between the genome and the human health.
Just building on that, I think technology is changing everything from finance to trade, etc., and similarly in health as well. So I would say digital health is really changing not only how you deliver healthcare, but also how you understand it. So you start with, genetics, genomes, so a lot of information, and then, that goes through a channel of understanding, filtering, sharing of information to the patient, to the doctor, to the government, for example, and then how do you use that also for prevention moving forward. And all of that, you can have digital health platforms for that. So I think it has already disrupted the industry and the market, and it will continue doing so in the future.
I'd like to double click a little bit on that deeper. So obviously what you mentioned is for a lot of very sensitive information moving around.
Right.
What needs to be, are the technologies already in place, or is there more innovation needed to make sure that it can move around safely and ensure that the private conversation I had with my doctor is not read by somebody else?
I can maybe talk about what the UAE is doing, and then we can hear about Lithuania. So there needs to be very clear governance, and the UAE has already issued a law not too long ago in 2019 looking at the privacy of patient information, who has access to it, where does it need to be stored, and all of that information. So the governance of it is very, very important. I think we should treat our information just like how we treat our money in the bank. And this is the way forward, because it's very valuable as well. So if we talk about clinical trials, for example, and doing research, this can all be done digitally today. But do I give my consent for that? And if I do, then I need to also understand. So I would say laws and regulations is very, very important.
So once the laws and regulations have been created, then obviously we need someone to make sure that it doesn't go, someone who's not supposed to see it doesn't see it, and technology enables that. Are those solutions readily available, or is there more improvement needed and innovation needed in that specific, I guess now it's more or less GovTech space?
Yeah, so cybersecurity obviously very important, and it's a big topic as well. But because it's changing so fast and it's being used in different ways, we need to do more, and I think this is just the beginning.
Thank you.
So I can comment on the technology side. So since we're managing quite a few millions of customers' data, so the technologies are there to secure basically everything. Always the question is of the targets and the purpose of using that data. And in Europe we have, and UAE has actually mostly the same regulation. So in Europe we have the GDPR. So and UAE basically structured that almost the same way on how the data has to be secured. And in all of the fields, that doesn't touch only the patient's data or something, but also the personal data, also the financial data, and all of the rest of the data, and the technologies are there as well. And you can hear lots of the different type of technologies also used, from the blockchain to whatever closed environments, and the only thing is just to make sure that these are applied, so and that's it. But that where it comes to cooperation on sharing the best techniques, practices, and all this stuff.
Amazing, thank you. I'm really sorry I deviated from my initial question, but I just couldn't double click more and ask you a few more additional questions. Monica, would you be able to please share your ideas? Where do you see the biggest areas of opportunity for co-creation?
Well, continuing from what was said, we at this very scientific-based business joke that, everything comes step by step. So researchers invent something, then business implement that, and government with all the legal conditions has to follow to create, the opportunities to do that, and then society, has to shift its mindset to adapt those technologies and changes. So, none of this exists without the other. So, all this work together and, creating changes together, actually what allows us move further as a society, as the planet. And the way to move forward, I also see that there was, a lot of talk about the data, that we have a lot of data, but at the same time, there is so much of the data we don't yet use and understand, starting from our own bodies, our own microbiomes, which is now a very hot topic and actually might transform the health industry from its essence to all the data that comes from our everyday life, from those traditional industries without which we cannot exist, we cannot be only tech. Somebody has to grow something and to build and to manufacture. But, having in mind that we are all this together and we really have to combine those new things, those new technologies, is what actually allows us to move further. But all the society, all the governments, all business and so on, and all the people in each of us.
Thank you. Ante, please.
Yeah, so if I will connect to the other talkers before me, and I will say that there are two trends that will move us forward in the next 10, 20 years. One of them is sustainability. We are sitting in sustainability area here, and sustainability in that broad sense, meaning that the world is connected more and more, meaning that what you do in one part of the world we have to be kind of looking to the other sides of the world, how it affects other people. So that will be driving forward. And another thing is personalization, meaning what Monica just said. We have a lot of information, and that means that a lot of information allows us somehow come to personalized solutions if you are able somehow to use all that information on the way. So despite the fact that the world is kind of going global, in other senses it will be personalized more and more, so to say. So these are the two trends, I would say.
Richard.
I think in terms of where are we going, and something that was said there is that the amount of information and knowledge that we now have access to. But obviously, there's echoes of what was achieved in the 1970s, the formation of this great country, Sheikh Zayed and the founding fathers. Wisdom is that what we had was within the message was an investment in a famous quote, investment in the youth. A country's future is within the youth and investing within their education. And within that, I believe we are going to progress with galvanizing and progressing with our educational system that we have here, reevaluating, creating a paradigm shift of the traditional sort of courses that we deliver from bachelor's to master's to PhD, and looking at new opportunities. And that will be done but obviously within international collaboration that we've started with Lithuania and the Northern Emirates. That collaboration and utilizing our greatest asset, which is our youth, through the vision of the wisdom that forefathers had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, the world that you described looks absolutely beautiful, and I really hope that all of that comes true and all of us see the personalization and collaboration and information sharing taking shape on daily basis due to Expo, and that connections that are going to be made from today onwards during the next 6 months are going to continue. From my personal note, knowing that kind of preparing for these discussions, I've done a lot of I encourage all of you to expand your knowledge and look and research in things in other industries, because that's another area that a lot of new ideas and innovation can be created by then. Well, I'd like for everyone to give a huge round of applause to the panelists. Thank you for all the insights and information you have shared. And here are gifts of appreciation to the panelists. Дякую. Це ти. Talked a lot about innovation. I'd like to invite to stage the CEO of Telesoft, Mr. Algirdas Stonys. Ready?
Hello. Hello. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good
Afternoon. Please, the stage is yours. Please tell everyone about our high-tech country.
All right. Hello, everybody. How is Dubai doing today? Are you doing great? So, my name is Algirdas Stonys. I am Chief Executive of Lietuvos, and I really feel like I'm in the center of the world today. So, I have my business partner, Bart Kappel, today with me. And yeah, we're gonna tell you our story of how we are making our country better, how we are creating a solution that is going to the future of Lithuania. So a little bit of background of Telesoftas. So we have established in 2003, and we are just a technology company. We are engineers, and we build products for industry leaders around the world, such as Blackstone Group, that's a big fintech company. We're actually merging two banks, Nordea and DNB in Lithuania, into one entity, Luminor, with Blackstone. This is a $2 billion worth project, and we have done that successfully. Also, as you might have guessed from our name, Telesoftas, we are very well known in the telco industry. So together with our partners in America, Viavi, we are making telco operators work better. We are improving the performance for 1.1 billion mobile subscribers around the world. Also, Telesoftas is a really active member of Lithuanian high-tech community and IT industry. So we are participating in all of the IT Association of Lithuania, Startup Lithuania, Infobalt, and Tech City, and many, many more. So what actually makes Lithuania a little bit similar to UAE, that we are a small country. It's not a big territory. And we're all friends. We're all families. So everybody knows each other. And of course, when back in 2009, our Minister of Economy, it started a roundtable and invited IT companies and high-tech industries to an open dialogue on how can we improve our government, and then it all evolved into a series of think tanks, into hackathons, into many, many events where Ministry of Economy would work with IT communities, just simple businessmen, simple people in the economy players, and this is how GovTech Laboratory, GovTech Lab initiative was born. Actually, Lithuanian government is just like any other government in the world. Well, it has a budget, it needs to spend money, and it needs to buy new, basically, infrastructure. So in order to innovate, they had to buy things. And procurement is really ineffective. It might be taking so long that by the time you actually deploy something, the technology is already old. So into making innovation much more effectively, in Lithuania we understood that the innovation has to be built inside the government. But how can the government do that? They have no software engineers. They have no data scientists working in the government. So the idea was to create a GovTech laboratory to enable private enterprises and public enterprises, governmental institutions, and all the departments of the government to co-create solutions together. And this is how GovTech laboratory was created together with Ministry of Economy. The initiative is led by MITA. That's a key R&D institution in Lithuania. And the GovTech platform was created to enable all the government departments, such as health department, police department. So actually, the first applicant was Lithuanian police department. And actually, Lithuanian police department has one of the best troopers and officers, and also specialists like criminologists, forensic experts in the European Union. And of course, Lithuania has invested a lot into the infrastructure of police. So we have a lot of sensors. We have a really advanced IoT deployed with the police troopers. And there is a lot of data. So, but what to do with that data? So head of police have seen that they need to make something out of it. So this is how they created the challenge: how to create a predictive police model for police force management. It was quite a challenging sentence, but we actually made it happen. So Telesoftas, together with the best scientists from Vytautas Magnus University in Vilnius, have joined in and created a predictive model. And Bart Kappel, you're welcome to tell the story.
Yes, thank you, August. So just simply answering this question, how do you do that? In order to answer these kind of complex questions, you need to build a solid foundation. So that's how we started out. First, we assembled a group of experienced researchers, experienced software engineers, and experienced criminologists to form a team that can tackle this challenge. Workshops were held during the whole project to update our information of the police, as we are not police agents ourselves. Tooling, another very important concept. We only had a short time to actually provide a solution for this challenge. So during that time, we leveraged our custom-built analytics platform so that we can drive innovation instead of being hassled and occupied with all the tooling. We faced several challenges during our project. As Algirdas mentioned, police is collecting lots of data, and data is omnipresent. However, that data was not sufficient enough to tackle this problem. We had to look elsewhere. So we combined several data sources from the public sector with private data as well from the police in order to create our solution. Crime is very complex by nature. It's very hard to pinpoint why a crime is occurring or where a crime will occur. Therefore, one single algorithm won't fix it. We had to do our analysis, do our research, and during our research, we created different insights with different algorithms and came to a composite AI that is able to predict hotspots and crime trends across whole of Lithuania. So how does our AI work? First, we collect all of our data. And as you can see, we visually present it on top of the topology of Lithuania. Then our algorithms first start with classifying, clustering, and driving insights out of the collected data. That makes it that certain points become more significant than others. After that, we need to instruct the police forces. On a daily basis, 620 forces are deployed across whole of Lithuania. They require hour-by-hour instructions or deviations when crimes occur. So The last step of our AI is the suggestion to police forces what would be the best patrolling routes so that they can actively prevent crimes. Just having a technical solution doesn't make it usable for the police. In the police, the people who will use our solution, they are not technical professionals like us. So we had to break down the complexity of the application into a simple user flow. We eventually ended up with a solution that the police collects their data, uploads it to our solution. Within several hours, all of the data is crunched, analyzed, collected, algorithmically predicted, and on a daily basis, we make 1.5 million predictions of crime on a 100 meter by 100 meter grid surface across the whole of Lithuania. I'm very happy that the police gave us this opportunity to demonstrate innovative AI solutions, and currently we are actually in the moment of deployment with the police, and they're testing our system live. This is only the first step into a smart policing future. More about that, Algirdas will tell you. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, Bart. It's an amazing achievement to do it in 10 weeks. So,
thank you.
So yeah, so absolutely, the predictive model for the police of Lithuania is now with the full access of Lithuania, so it kind of belongs to Lithuanian government. So if some government officials from UAE use it, you can talk to our Minister of Economy, and Lithuania definitely ready to share that. But this is absolutely not the end. We have now a full roadmap how to make a police force of the future. So it's not going to be police force of Lithuania only. It's going to improve the work of policemen of all the people in the world. Also, by the concept of the GovTech Lab, as part of it, the intellectual property is by Lithuanian government, but we couldn't make it without additional tools. So we had to build a lot of additional tools around. One of them is a doctor platform, which we have it in our company. Even us coming here to Dubai, actually a part of that is because of the AI that we built for police. Our financial department of Telesoftas started using doctor platform to predict whether any travel expenses that chief executive is doing or sales department are doing are going to pay off. So, and as well, our sales are going to use it as well. More challenges coming. Actually, now in the GovTech laboratory in Lithuania, we have 29 more challenges in health tech industry. We have challenges in educational industry. We have all the manufacturing challenges as well, smart cities, and as well we have a predictive model how to make our cities greener and meet SDG goals that Lithuania is supporting right now. So it's definitely not the start. I would like to invite everybody to visit the stand of Lithuania, because we are ready to share. And one of the goals of Lithuanian participation here in World Expo is co-creation. So let us co-create our future together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You wait a second. We'd like to say thank you for the wonderful and inspiring presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once a clicker, I think it's a closing remark.
Thank you.
Okay, stage is yours.
Well, it's amazing to hear, and the achievements that are done through technology and innovation across different sections in different industries in Lithuania. Thank you everyone for attending today. So in the spirit of Expo 2020 Dubai, connecting minds, creating the future, I hope ideas exchanged during the panels by the speakers will evolve into discussions during the networking event. and that will grow into partnerships and co-creation of real world-changing solutions. I recently read a quote: "The challenges presented during COVID has forced both private and public sector companies to ensure that fundamentals were in place. Everything from the basics of food, we need to ensure that population have access to nutrition food, and that requires innovation across the whole food production chain. Everything from farming, harvesting, packaging, to how it reaches everyone's tables. Sustainability and climate change is now on everyone's agenda. It's amazing to hear the innovations that are being done in Lithuania in this specific industry. You've heard about the window panes that can be solar panels. Scientists from Kaunas Technology University have invented the most efficient solar tandem cell. We're also very proud that one of our scientists are looking how to save energy by storing data in the synthesized DNA. Technologies like CRISPR, they have an opportunity to change the healthcare industry and in some cases prevent possible diseases as well. All of these things come together, then people create ideas, share their expertise and dream up new ideas. I hope this is what we have been able to achieve today. So thank you very much everyone for attending. I invite you to join the networking event at the Lithuania Pavilion. If you haven't visited the Lithuania Pavilion yet, I highly encourage you to explore all of the exhibits. 3 of my favorites are the smallest model of the Burj Khalifa. You can also experience one of the paintings of our famous artist, Mikalojus Konstantinas Čiurlionis, by stepping into a VR experience. And, as mentioned earlier, you can print yourself some food using a food 3D printer. There is an audio tour available that tells the story behind each of these exhibits. So you can download Globetrot Travel mobile application to explore that. As mentioned, today is the Lithuania National Day here at Expo. And the celebrations of the day are going to be concluded with a concert on the Jubilee stage that is starting at 8 p.m. Thank you very much. Let's go create together and let's create world-changing solutions.
Please hold on, Simona, and I would like you being a star of this forum, and I was so excited how able you was to go so deeply into such specific and different topics. So please, I would like to address the very sincere thank you from all the team of Enterprise Lithuania and co-organizers of this. This is a very small gift, and you have such a big talent, and so thank you very much for such a professional moderation, and I would like to ask you all to applaud for Simona for this great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll take him along. Shall we continue to the Lithuania Pavilion? There are a lot more conversations that we need to have. Nu kaip atrodė man tai?